Yesterday I was walking down the street and I was getting some boba, as I do out on my little hot girl walk, when it's very strange because not often am I approached by people like, I don't know, very head down, girl just wants her boba. But a man approached me and he said something to me that was a little bit strange. It's normal to be like, "Oh, you're pretty. Can I get your number?" Or, a random cat call. But he was just like, "Oh, you think you're able to do that?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "You think you're able to do that? Open up the door?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then he just like scoffed and walked away. And it was so weird. So weird. I mean, I'm not an expert on conversation and how things are supposed to go. But as far as meeting people and getting to know them, he made an impact for sure as Boba Guy.
Yeah, you know what they say? They say it takes like 7 seconds to make an impression, and he definitely did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm proud to announce I was able to open up the door
Thank
and
God.
get some boba. It was very impressive. But this kind of like brings me back to another topic that has long kind of been on my mind. You hear it all the time from other women, like women telling women, "This is my experience. This is what I went through." But you don't really hear it, like as a conversation between two people as their experiences. And today, that's what we wanted to talk about. Hi, my name's Kira, and with me is Jen. Welcome to the Decomposing Flower podcast. We talk about true crime on our channel or anything that we really find interesting, such as true events. So if that's your cup of tea, definitely come along. Today, I have to mention that it is going to be very personal for both Jen and I, as we will be telling some of our stories that have impacted our life to this day, as I just think it's something important for people to know that this happens to real people. So, with that being said, some trigger warnings are assault, SA, and abuse. So, if you're not in the right headspace for that, make sure you can go open up a door, go get yourself some boba, and we'll see you in the next episode.
A lot of Korean women have been experiencing high levels of domestic violence and abuse because there was that chat room that was on like Telegram, I think. It was like their sisters, their moms, their girlfriends, children were being essayed without their knowledge. And it was being posted in these Telegram chats. And a lot of, obviously, the women were like going through a lot of trauma. And so a lot of women in South Korea have been doing the 4B movement, which is essentially where they're pretty much just not dating men. They're not having any kind of relations with men. And not in like the stereotypical stuff you see kind of here where people are like, "Oh, I hate men. I'm not dating a man." But then they go on all these dates. They straight up are like abandoning men. They're not dating men. They're not having sex with them. They're not interacting with them because they want to make a statement to say, "Hey, stop abusing us, please." And obviously, a lot of South Korean men are upset about this. And obviously, I can't speak for the experiences there because I don't live in South Korea. But from what I know, is a lot of people are trying to kind of adapt that here in Canada, the United States. Although I don't know how much people are doing it because you do see a lot of stuff on the internet where people say they're doing something, but they're not. But I do know for sure in South Korea, it is actually like a massive movement. And I believe they're worried because I think the birth rates in South Korea are going down massively.
I know kind of all over, as far as what I read, is like Asia, here even, we're being outmatched by our older population, and there's not enough new people to replace the old people.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of women in the past, we kind of needed to get married because we didn't have any rights. And now women are able to work. And also, I think it's also people just can't afford to have kids or they don't care to have kids because it's just like, why would I want that right now?
especially given the state of the world.
Yeah.
And they definitely, this is speaking very high level for a lot of experiences of women and what they go through. And another big case that kind of recently surfaced is the network. And I'm speaking very high level about this case as I don't have enough information to go in depth in it. But from what I know, it was a chat room, it was an academy about men teaching other men how to essay like their wives and people who trusted them. And there was so many men.
Yeah, and apparently Pornhub is actually mass deleting any videos that have the word sleep in it because of that.
That's so messed up.
It is. It's I think what scares me is it could literally be anyone in your life that's going to these stupid, like, alpha male academy The fact that that even existed is insane.
That's so accessible and that, there's all these men doing it and they're just like, yeah, no, it's what I enjoy, so I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting too is because a lot of men have been commenting on this and they're like, "Oh, I don't see how that's rape when they're together," or if all these women I know must be assaulted, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's the problem, dude." Like a lot of women have been assaulted by their boyfriends or husbands or partners, and they don't think they've been because we kind of just think the stereotypical thing is being in a alleyway or you're a child or it's really aggressive when it can literally be that your husband just drugs you, or even if it's just them being like, please, I'm gonna have blue balls if you don't fuck me, and you just give in. Like, it sucks that so many women can experience this, and we almost just have to just be like, yeah, that's reality.
Because a lot of it, and I'm speaking from experience here, that essay happens because, I mean, you're terrified in the moment. Is this person going to kill you? You try to say no, and they don't take it as a no.
Yeah.
You end up saying yes, even though the answer is for sure a no. Like you said, it's like that conversation where it's like, oh, I need to do this. You need to do this. And you don't even need to say yes because no matter what you say, they're just going to do it.
I think a lot of men and boys don't really understand what consent actually is because a lot of people think if you're in a relationship, even if you have said that you're okay with like certain things in the bedroom, that doesn't mean that's always acceptable at all times. I know some people have the kink of consent, non consent, but it's like you need to make sure that you actually know that that person is consenting to this role play or a kink or whatever it is, all because they said yes last time. That doesn't mean they're always okay with that.
Particularly, I have a story to share about my experience with this, and I have quite a few of them, unfortunately. But one of the times where I was assaulted, it involved, and I can tell this story with a little bit of pizzazz. It was the first time I'd moved to my city, and I recently downloaded a dating app. This was my first time on the app. I had never done anything like this before. So the nuances and ways of talking with people this way, I didn't know since there's like a second language to it all. But anyways, besides this point, I had met with this one guy and he was like, "Oh, do you want to come over for pizza?" I said, "Sweet, sure. I love pizza." And so went over to his house. I ended up standing outside in the snow in a blizzard for like 5 minutes before this guy came down and then brought me into his house. I walk into the house, give it a no pizza. So I turn to him and I'm like, "Hey, where's the pizza?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't know you wanted pizza." I'm like, "What part of come over for pizza didn't you understand?" And he says to me, "Oh, well, I didn't, there's no good pizza places around here." And I look out the window, seeing a Pizza Hut, and I say to him, why not right there?" And he turns to me and says, "No, it's not that good. And so I'm like, well, I'm really hungry. I need to eat something. And so we end up finding a sushi place that's like literally a block away. We walk to it. We have sushi. But throughout the entire conversation, he's saying obscene things like, oh, I bet this fish smells like you, whatever.
Oh
And
my
I didn't know
god.
that I could just leave. So, like, at one point, during the conversation, I say to him, hey, can you stop saying these obscene things? Like, I am here to get to know you, not your dick. So if that's okay with you. And he said, yeah, absolutely. And then he continues on the conversation. But at the end of it, he says, oh, do you want to come back to mine? And I can show you some music. Like, I'm sorry. I just got so excited about seeing you. And I just started talking about that. And I'm like, okay, I'll give you one more chance and you can show me some of your music and I can get to know you. And so we went back to his place. And again, understand, I don't understand the nuances of this conversation saying, hey, come back to my place and what that might entail. For me, it just means come back to my place. So we end up going to his house and he pulls out a little guitar and plays a song. And then he sits down on the couch next to me and he says, oh, do you want to sing the next song? And I say to him, yeah, of course, I would love to. But then that's when he threw his tongue down my throat and pinned me to the couch and was just making out with me. And I didn't know what to do. My hands were pinned. I couldn't move. And he kept saying, come to the bedroom, come to the bedroom. I said, no, I don't want to. I know what happens if I go in there. I don't want to. And he grabbed my hands and dragged me into the bedroom and locked the door behind him and forced me onto the bed. And in this story, I didn't get any of my clothes taken off. I just got rubbed and touched, but there was no entry, I'm gonna say. But there was a lot of touching and there was a lot of just making out and me pinned, and I couldn't go anywhere. And then he ends up doing whatever he needs to do for himself. And he turns over to me like he's done a great job. And he says, hey, what's your favorite vegetable? And I turn to him and I say, oh, a cucumber because they're refreshing. And he says, wait right here. And he leaves, locking the door behind him. And I just sit there, not knowing what to do with myself, thinking, yep, I'm going to die now. This is great. And he comes back and sits on the bed and he presents an English long cucumber like he is presenting a samurai with a sword and says, do you want a Lady and the Tramp this? And I don't know what else to do. He takes this cucumber and puts the whole thing in his mouth. And I mean, impressive, first of all. But second of all, that was the point where I got the fuck out of there because now the door was open and I could leave. But throughout this entire story, he had a roommate who was there and who could hear everything. But yeah, that's my experience as far as the first time I started dating.
You hear so many stories of people who get assaulted and their roommate is there, and their roommate doesn't do anything. And I know not all SA is violent, so you might not even know. And the fact they don't say anything, you need to hold your friends accountable too, being like, hey man, that was not consent, or that was not cool. Like, what are you doing? I think we just need to start saying these things. But I don't know. I don't hang out with people who rape people. Like, I just don't. I've never had a friend tell me something where I'm like, "Oh, hey, that's not cool."
Yeah, 100%. It's not something that I feel like should be glorified, which sometimes you'll hear conversations where it's like, oh, yeah, she was such a great lay, or yeah, I slept with her, and things like that. And it's just, I don't know, you never really know the full story. And sometimes, yeah, it is a good time. But I hear a lot of discourse as far as when women come out with these stories and when they tell some of the most awful things that have been done to them, people will treat them like they're the assaulter.
You just hear so many times where victims will come forward and they're treated like the offender or the abuser, or they're not believed, all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah, it's really hard coming forward with these stories and telling these stories.
It's, like, frustrating too, because this happens to so many women where a man will do a nice thing for you, and then it's just, like, expected to have sex with them. Like, dinner, it's like, "Oh, I bought you dinner, so can I fuck you?" And it's like, "No," and it's, "Oh, well, I took you out for dinner, why won't you let me fuck you?" Like, I'm not a sex worker.
Yeah, I have my own money. I can buy my own dinner. If you're doing it as a nice gesture to be like, "Yeah, I wanna take care of you, like, thank you so much for spending your time with me."
What's scary too is you're just expected to just move on. And also, I don't know if you're like me, but it takes me a while to even like, comprehend what happened. So it'll take me sometimes like a couple weeks to months to be like, oh, yeah, that was actually like rape, or that wasn't cool. I didn't like that. And it's almost too late to really do anything about it.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes from gaslighting and being like, "Oh, no, it's okay, you want this. Like, I want this, so therefore you have to want this." And it's coercing you into saying or just, like, taking whatever. It's not necessarily, "Oh, you're saying yes." It's you're being forced into there's no other option.
Yeah. And a lot of people just would rather say yes and just deal with that than say no, because you don't know what will happen if you say no. It might just be even more violent. I don't know if you've ever reported any of it to the police, but I reported like my relationship after I left. But since it was a 5-year relationship, I had all of this evidence of what happened to me. But it also was hard to give them everything because it had been 5 years. And I was like, well, this is what he did to me for 5 years. Like, do I give you every ounce of every photo I have? Reporting it to the police is another trauma because when I reported mine, I did not know how you fill out a police report. And when I was sitting with the officer, I had to like sit there and go into massive detail of what happened to me. And I always expected it to be like, oh, I was assaulted or I was beat. But they want to know everything. Like, what were you wearing? What room were you in? What were you doing? What led up to this? What happened after? What were they wearing? And that's like another trauma. And then you do all that, and then the police are like, yeah, sorry, we're not going to go through with this one because there's just not enough information. There's not enough evidence. And sometimes you don't have evidence, or you do, but the evidence isn't enough. And then if you do want to take it to the court, that's another trauma for victims because now you have to sit and tell your story, especially if you're going in front of a jury. You got to tell your story, and then you get cross-examined by somebody, and you also have to face your abuser or your rapist. And then in the end, sometimes nothing happens. Or you do get justice, but still you're left with the trauma still. It's not like, okay, they go to prison for a couple years, and half the time rapists or abusers don't go to prison for a long time.
So many of the cases that we've covered, you find that it's like, "Oh, okay, they're supposed to get 26 years and they got 2 years."
Yeah, on good behavior, which is crazy. Like, what? So many victims will have their perpetrators go to jail, let's say 15 years, but they'll get parole. Or let's just say it is the 15 years. And then they are afraid that that person is going to come back and kill them or is going to come back with revenge or what. It's not like someone goes to prison or gets some sort of consequence and the victim is like, oh, thank God. Now I'm fine. It's like there's way more trauma, fear, and then also there's like the public opinion. The hockey case that happened in Canada a couple years ago. I don't know if you know about that one.
Like with the boys team?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like she had a lot of proof and all this stuff. They weren't even found guilty, I don't think. And then this girl, people have been making comments saying that she probably wanted it and was wanting money. And I'm just like, Why, like, what would she actually gain from lying about these famous hockey players? Because it's not like when women come forward, it's not like everybody believes us. A lot of times people on the internet love to be like, "Well, what were you wearing?" Or, "Okay, well, what led up to it? You probably did something." It's not like everyone believes you and you get money and you get all this attention and you get like, half the time it ruins your life, it ruins your family's life, it can especially if it's a family member. There's so much.
So true. Like, coming forward, when I came forward about some of my stuff, I got the exact same treatment where it's, "What were you wearing? What did you say? Oh, you probably wanted it." Even when I went to the police when I was raped, it was, "Yeah, we can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
It just sucks. Yeah. Hope you have therapy, though." And then I went to my therapist and she said, "Well, you probably were asking for it."
What? Your therapist said that?
Mm.
Did you report her? Oh my god.
Yeah, we switched up real quick after that.
That's crazy. That is crazy, dude. Oh my god. I don't understand the whole, well, they probably wanted it. Or what were you wearing?
If I'm telling you, this hurt me and this has caused me trauma, it is something that I did not want.
Yeah, like, why would I be like, "Oh, yeah, I had sex with this person. Oh, yeah, I wanted it, but I'm just gonna lie." Like, that doesn't benefit me in any way. It's crazy because let's say someone gets robbed. They're driving their car and they get Grand Theft Autoed. Someone comes in and hijacks their car. Nobody's gonna be, "Well, why were you driving with your car unlocked?" But if you get assaulted, and let's say you get assaulted and you were wearing revealing clothes, why is that automatically a reason for someone to be assaulted? It doesn't make any sense. And that's what makes me so angry. When we research these cases, so many of the victims' stories are people just blaming them. And it's crazy that like assault is the one crime that happens to you where you're the one blamed for the criminal.
Yeah, I like that analogy that you put out because it's, you wouldn't walk up to someone who was robbed at gunpoint and say, "Hey, why didn't you just duck?"
Yeah. Why didn't you put your wallet in a safe, you idiot? You probably were wanting to get robbed. Right.
Yeah.
I guess for me, my question is always, what is it about victims with rape that makes it so complicated for certain people to just be like, they're a victim? You don't look at murder cases or let's say 9/11 and go, well, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't have went to work. Maybe you shouldn't have been in such a tall building. Maybe you shouldn't have been in a plane. Have you ever thought of that?
Why would you get eaten by sharks? Why were you swimming?
Have you ever thought of not standing in the way of a knife?
Yeah, that's not what I would have done. I would have actually probably put up my invisible force field and then he wouldn't have been able to get me.
Yeah, it's such a joke, and I feel like maybe half of the people saying this are just dumb incels on Reddit or Facebook or whatever, and they're just trying to rage bait because they probably never experienced love in their life, and so they need to feel something, and if that means upsetting people, but I'm just like, "Man, what a sad life."
When someone's telling you something so close to the chains, we're supposed to be empathetic creatures. So, like, imagine your daughter coming to you and saying, "Hey, this happened to me." Would you ask them, "Were you wearing red underwear?"
The first thing that comes into my head when someone tells me they were assaulted, I never am thinking about, well, what were you wearing? Well, what were you doing? My first thought is, are you okay? Do you need to call somebody? Do we need to go and get the cops involved? What do you need? I never think of blame because it's like consent can also be taken away. You can be in the middle of it and then be like, actually, I don't want this anymore. It's not always what led up to it because you could actually be into it in the moment and be like, oh, actually, I do want to have sex with this person. And then halfway through, you're like, actually, I don't. You can say no.
If at any point you can always retract consent.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We know it was a little bit different. If you want to share your own experiences, feel free to down in the comments below. If you're interested in these types of episodes, please let us know as well because these are a little bit more relaxed and not scripted like our other ones. Or if you do have a topic, we do have a Google form. But thank you again for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.